Number 1, if you FOIL the first two terms, and you FOIL the last thing that's being squared as well, you'll notice that the 2 sine of x cosine of x cancels because you're adding 1 and subtracting 1. Then you're left with sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x, which is 1, and another sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x, which is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Number 2, this problem, if you factor it, it's the easiest way. This is a perfect square trinomial. If you look at your factoring sheet, which is going to be the first term square root plus your last term square root, and that whole thing is being squared. Cosine squared of alpha plus sine squared of alpha is 1. 1 squared is 1. Number 3, if you multiply out the cosecant of x minus cotangent of x quantity squared, you get that. If you change the terms to be in sine and cosine, we already have common denominators now, so we can make this one fraction. This numerator is a difference, is a perfect square trinomial once again, which factors into the first term square root minus the last term square root, and that whole thing is squared. How you know if it's plus or minus here? It's the same sign as the middle term. It's a subtract, so that's subtract. This denominator, I'm going to change to 1 minus cosine squared of x. That's a Pythagorean identity. I'm doing that because I notice I'm trying to get it as the answer, a cosine in the bottom. My denominator factors. It's the difference of 2 squares. 1 minus cosine of x times 1 plus cosine of x. Now I can cancel from the top and the bottom of 1 minus cosine of x, which gives me what the right side was from the beginning. Number 4, I'm going to change tangent to sine over cosine and secant to 1 over cosine. I'm going to get common denominators by multiplying. Actually, they are already common denominators. I'm just going to add the fractions together. And I'm going to multiply sine of theta minus 1 times sine of theta plus 1. Gives me sine squared of theta minus 1. Pythagorean identity, sine squared of theta is the same as 1 minus cosine squared of theta. The 1's cancel. So I get negative cosine squared of theta over cosine of theta. I can cancel cosine from the top and the bottom. I get negative cosine of theta. Number 5, you're done when you have one trig function equals a number. I'm going to change tangent to sine over cosine. Get common denominators, multiply cosine top and bottom by cosine, so I get cosine squared over cosine. Put my fractions together. Sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. 1 over cosine. Change the left side to 1 over sine. If you multiply both sides by cosine, you get cosine over sine equals 1, which is cotangent of x equals 1. Number 6, I'm going to change the tangents to sine over cosine. I'm going to change the cotangent to cosine over sine. I'm going to change the 1's to have a common denominator. So the first one becomes cosine over cosine. The second one becomes sine over sine. Add your fractions. Instead of dividing a fraction by a fraction, multiply the top fraction by the reciprocal of the bottom. Notice your sine plus cosine of x cancels on the top and the bottom, leaving you with sine over cosine, which of course is tangent. Therefore, tangent of x is 2.